Hey, this is Seth at Music Teachers Muse. Tune in Fridays PST at midnight for new episodes. See you there. Welcome back. Today we're going to get in depth with helping students with gear, care, maintenance, and operation. Because you would be surprised if you haven't done a lot of this kind of work at how careless and how clueless the majority of your students will be with their equipment. It's mind-blowing. And it's also a major aneurysm-causing thing that some of it is so self-explanatory, yet they still struggle with understanding it. So I know it comes easy to us as the pros because we, especially as detail-oriented people, we want to. When I buy a guitar, I want to know what pickups are, what the wood's made out of, how big the frets are, what the pickups are. I probably already said that, but I want specific details. Well, people couldn't give two shits less. So we're just going to jump right into first thing: instrument respect and care. So I'm going to use my lovely vintage Ibanez PF 300 for reference. So the first thing as far as the care of it is you literally have to, especially kids. Now adults, if you have to explain this to an adult, I hope they're a special needs adult of some sort because it's just such an easy thing. If they've ever owned a car or anything that they have to polish or clean, this is not, other than telling them what kind of polish to get, what kind of rag to use, maybe not even that. You have a telephone that does everything except practically for speaking to people now. But you can ask Google, what's the best guitar polish to buy? And what kind of polishing rag should you use? I had to use it to figure out how to clean my TV screen the other day, so I didn't use the wrong solvent on it. So, but for kids, you have to actually show them how to polish the guitar. A lot of times you have to do it for them. So I do recommend the Music Nomad. I'm not endorsed or anything, but this Music Nomad Guitar 1 polish is the best stuff I've found. It goes on easy, it's not oily, and it smells nice. So you spray a little on there. Just going to do the front of the guitar, save us a little time here. And you get a polishing cloth. Nothing abrasive. Usually you can get a guitar care kit that has all the stuff in it, and you just buff it off. This guitar has also been polished with the bright stuff, which is the best actual polish. This just cleans it really well. But the bright stuff acts like a wax. So you polish the guitar with an actual polish, then you get the bright stuff on there and you rub it around in a circle like this. You let it dry to a haze and you buff it off, and it shines and sparkles like a diamond. It's beautiful. I don't use anything else now. So it's a wonderful product. It will bring out every little blemish on the instrument. If there's a crack in the finish or a chip or a ding, you will see that. Especially, and you can only use it on a gloss finish anyway. On a satin finish, you do not want to use that. You can use the polish, but not the wax, because it's not clear coated. But very simple, very self-explanatory. Just show them how to put it on there, how to rub it off, and just how to keep the guitar looking nice. So, and now we have a nice, freshly polished, gorgeous instrument. My favorite part about this guitar, other than the sound, the tone, and the playability, this gorgeous headstock inlay. It's beautiful. Okay. The next thing we're going to go over is when the guitar is not in use, you need to show them how to securely put it on a stand. This is the Hercules stand. It's a two-way stand, obviously. But it's weighted, so as soon as it gets put on the stand, it clasps around the headstock. It's very secure. I've had this stand for a couple of years now. Never even been a problem. I recommend that over anything because it's called Hercules for a reason. It's heavy duty. If you got an expensive instrument, don't buy a $20 or even $30 stand. You might get a good one for that much. I don't remember what they cost anymore. But don't buy cheap and tell your students, just get something that's sturdy and make sure it's secure when you put it on there. You are going to need is to show them literally how to put it in the case. I'll Again, this should be self-explanatory. It really should. It's not hard to do. But we're talking about children here, so you got to tell them things 17 billion times and hope that they retain the information. Okay, so the next thing we're going to get into is this is the biggest one you're going to combat as a teacher. It's not even something you combat, but you will deal with it all of the time. That is the dilemma of the gig bag. This is a Roadrunner gig bag. They're really well made for not a very expensive one, and it's a duffel bag for an instrument. It's not a super heavy duty one. But you would be maybe not shocked, but surprised at how difficult it is for children to put their instrument in and take it out of the gig bag. It's mind-blowing. So what they usually do is this. They'll have the guitar in there. And when they put the guitar away, they'll zip it all the way down to where both zippers are underneath on the bottom. So when they go to take the guitar out, they'll unzip and the guitar will potentially fall out the bottom. I'm not going to even chance on showing you what that looks like because I don't want to damage my baby here. You know what that does, and you tell them every time, if you do that and the guitar falls out and hits the ground hard enough, it's bye-bye guitar, or it could be damaged. As anybody with any common sense knows, or if you've been playing for very long, it does not take much of anything to severely damage an instrument. So what you have to do is teach them that you leave one here, and but essentially what you want to have them do is make sure that they have both at the top. So, not essentially. People overuse that word, and the word basically so damn much it makes me want to beat the hell out of somebody because it's not essential and it's not required. What we are doing is teaching them. You leave one at the top. You bring one down to about here, so you can just lift the instrument straight out of there easily. And then when you put it back in, one's not all the way at the bottom, so it doesn't fall out and hit the ground or anything. Put it back up, both at the top, and there you go. Very, very simple. Now, depending on the type of gig bag they have, I've seen some shitty, piss poor, worthless gig bags, like the one that doesn't even have anything like this going on. It's literally where you can only put it in through the bottom of the gig bag. There's a section about this long where you zip. There's one zipper, and then you have to stuff the headstock in from underneath. And it's as thin as tinfoil, and it's ugh. There should be a law against people being able to make a product that is that piss poor, because it's barely functional at all. But they exist, so you'll probably deal with that a lot. But again, you'd be surprised how difficult it is for children to understand this simple concept. It just takes them a while to get used to it, but that's a big part of transporting and caring for their guitar or their bass or uke or whatever it is they have. Sometimes they have little gig bags and carrying cases for ukes too. So unless you have a V or something that's monstrosity, you'll need a full-size hard case for that, because if they make a gig bag for a guitar like that, I had a Jackson Kelly once that did fit in a gig bag, but it was so tight it just about ripped the pointy parts of the guitar would almost poke through it. So it's not practical for that. But rarely will students buy guitars like that unless they're extreme metalheads, because it's generally the only kind of people who play those things. That's the gig bag. So we're just going to set this over here for now. The next part is cables. So this will be really short, but I've seen students just grab the cable and wad it up and then throw it in the bag. And just like the instrument care, just like the gig bag, everything else, you have to teach kids especially. Now, adults, not so much. Almost never. But with kids, because adults understand the value of money, and it takes money to buy things, and most adults have had to work at some point in their life, so they understand that they had to work to earn this. So they respect it more automatically. Kids don't know this shit, and how could they? up to a certain age. So you got to take that into consideration. They're learning everything for the first time. But, you just tell them you coil the cable up to where it doesn't kink. And then this cable has a little loop on it that you can just use to secure it to where it automatically, you don't need an extra Velcro strip or anything, and you're good to go. Actually, my favorite cable, because I got this the first week I was at MI for answering a trivia question about a movie. So it's a Planet Waves cable. It's held up rather well. I've had it for, 12 years. That's the easy way to care for your cables, and then you can just get the Velcro strips that go around it, or the things with the teeth on them. You can get those at Home Depot. They just lock around cables. They're just great for even at home when you get your entertainment set up. Like in my room, I've got my stereo, 2 PlayStations, and my TV all on the same dresser, and that they really help just for keeping things clean and uncluttered. But just make sure they know that to coil it up like this to where they don't kink the wires inside or anything like that, so that they are, to use it for a long time. Because if that happens, then you're going to be out a cable, because it just doesn't work. It's also a good idea to recommend that they get a right angle cable to plug in, especially if they have the guitar I just used, where the jack is either on the very top of the body, like on top of the body where the bridge and everything is, or on the side. It's much easier to this because it doesn't get in your way. This will protrude outwards and be a real pain in the ass. So I can't imagine having a V. I've seen it where like on an Explorer or certain Vs where the jack is right on top of the body, and then you got this sticking out this far off the top of the body, when this is a whole lot better. So that's definitely a good recommendation. So the next thing we've got is amps. So this is the Blackstar ID Core. Let's make sure it's in tune. So most of these amps, like this one. Now, before we go any further with the amp thing, the best thing you can do is find out, and most of the time they won't be able to tell you because they don't remember details for this kind of stuff, but ask them what kind of amp they actually have, because YouTube is your friend here. There is a YouTube demo for practically any music-related product that exists now. If there isn't for something, I'd be really, really surprised, whether it's by the company that made it or by some guy like me who's doing a pedal demo or something. So recommend that they find a YouTube demo for this, because it's going to be easier than you trying to explain it. It's going to take up most of, if not all of the lesson, just trying to show them. But the first thing on this one is that you have the built-in tuner. So you just hold that down. It says hold for tuner. You want to explain to them what gain is. So we start off at the very left. We got clean, warm, clean, bright. I got them blind. Crunch, super crunch, OD1, OD2. You want to explain to them that crunch is a distortion sound, but there's so many different kinds of distortion sounds. Crunch is like an AC/DC tone for like rhythm guitar. It's the easiest way I can think of to describe it, because it's not very distorted, but it's not a clean sound either. Because if you think about the average amount of distortion on an AC/DC record, it's very light. So then you've got super crunch. So let me just run through the tones. I'm just going to play one chord and go through them all. That's the clean warm, clean bright. Definitely noticeably brighter. Warm and bright are pretty easy terms to describe. Then you got crunch. And you've got the super crunch. OD1, which stands for overdrive. Explaining the difference between overdrive and distortion, I don't know if it's even worth it unless they specifically ask. Overdrive is, from what I understand, is a tube amp that's about to break up that just adds a little bit of grit. And distortion is more of a metal, aggressive tone. That's literally the easiest way I can think of to describe it. This is overdrive 1. Notice it gets more distorted the further up you go. And then you got overdrive 2. A little tighter sounding. Okay, so those are all the basic tones at the settings I've got them on. This amp also just does not have a 3-band EQ, doesn't have a low, middle, high. Just has an EQ knob. So depending on which direction you turn it, it's called ISF, which stands for Infinite Shape Feature. So depending on which direction you turn it, it just adds more low, middle, or high to whatever position it ends up in. And then you've got the effect, you've got modulation, delay, and reverb. You've got the built-in tuner. You've also got a tap tempo for the delay. And then you've got presets, which I admittedly have not bothered to mess with. It also comes with this, which is an instruction manual, a printed one, because most people use everything online to find out how to work this stuff, which is better because you don't have to read through it, but it does come with it. And it is rare to get an actual printed manual of anything anymore. So that's actually cool. And then you just got the effects. Modulation is, flange, chorus, phaser, things like that. Delay, it's got the echo kind of a sound to it. Reverb, it's like when you shout in a bathroom with a tile floor. Those are easy ways to describe what those sound like. And then you've got your level, which is, that's how much of the effect you want. And then you've got your gain, which just described to them, that's the distorted sound. And then you've got the volume, which is how loud it is. And then you get your EQ. That's as basic of a description of this amp as I can pretty much give you. But in addition to this part of the instruction, if they have their own amp, literally just have them bring it with them. If they're coming to you, obviously, it's much harder to do over the webcam. But just have them bring their amp with them, and you can give them a basic idea of how to work it. But I cannot recommend enough that you just find a YouTube link and send it to them, or just tell them, bet on them not doing it if you tell them to go find the video, because a lot of times they won't. But that's on them. They're paying you for your expertise and your instruction. If they don't follow it, it's not your problem. Now we're just going to go over pedal real quick. Now, I'm not going to plug this pedal in, but just to give them a basic rundown. Every pedal is different, just like every guitar is different, every amp is different. This is an Ibanez JD9 Jet Driver. I got this sometime last year. I love this pedal. It's really cool. It's an overdrive, but from what I understand, it's essentially a tube screamer with a mid-range control. So you've got first on, off. That's easy. And this, you can use a 9-volt or you can use a power supply. I always recommend getting a power supply because pedals suck batteries dry quickly. Just especially if you're gonna gig or do any kind of recording or anything, just get a power supply for your pedals. Because if one of those goes dead or the power supply dips on any one of those batteries, it affects the entire signal chain. But anyway, just so the student understands, volume. If that's not self-explanatory, unless it's a really young kid, just case-by-case basis. That's either left is down, right is up. Then you've got tone. In guitar terms, tone means high end. So it's the brightness control. It's either clockwise is bright, counterclockwise is darker. Drive, that's how much gain or how much distortion. In this case, it's an overdrive pedal, but it does the same thing. Drive and gain means the same thing. So how much distortion you want in the signal. Left is less, right is more. And then you've got the mid-range control, which is mids. And you got low, middle, high. So regardless of what people want to bullshit you about, the guitar is a mid-range instrument. It irritates the hell out of me when I see an amp that does not have a mid-range control on it. This one doesn't, but it's got an EQ knob. But you see low and high with no mids, it's like, give me a fucking break. But you're going to run into that. So they're just very basic. There's too many pedals. I mean, even all the pedals I've got, they're all so vastly different from each other. But again, just like with the amps, have them bring their pedals into the lesson and show them, you have to have 2 cables, one that goes from the guitar to the inside of the pedal and one from the outside of the pedal into the input of the amp, and then just help them understand how it works. And that's if they just have one pedal. If they have a whole board or anything, that's going to take multiple lessons to get that going. But if you work in a store, the guys who work there who sell them this stuff will be just as knowledgeable, if not more so, than you are. But it's all part of helping the student understand their gear and how it works. So it's important to just know that. So that's the pedal part of this lesson. And the last part we're going to cover is helping them understand the guitar instrument controls and their functions. And we're going to do it with a couple of different guitars. I'm just going to keep with this one right here. So this is a Les Paul style guitar. It's not an actual Les Paul, but it's the closest thing that I have to one. And it's an Ibanez, so it's better than Les Paul. So if you ask me, if you noticed, I'm an Ibanez fan. So this is a typical Les Paul type of setup, however. So you've got bridge pickup, neck pickup, and that is automatically something that people have a hard time remembering. I don't know why, but you have to tell them 17,000 times, especially if it's a kid. 17,000 is probably a low estimate. So I know I've said it. Yesterday I was doing a lesson with a kid. He's like, which one's the bridge pickup? I'm like, which part of your guitar is the bridge? And he's got a Strat style guitar, so he's got a blade switch, and this is the bridge and this is the neck. So obviously this is the closest one to the neck. I don't know why that's so damn hard to remember, but for some people it is. Makes me want to just bludgeon someone, but common sense is not exactly prevalent in our current society. So just let them know this is the headstock, the tuners, the neck, the fretboard, pickup selector. At least on this kind of guitar, that's where it usually almost always, if not always, is. Like on a PRS, it'll be down here somewhere. And then you got the bridge, neck pickup, bridge pickup. This is just, for those of us who are pros, we know all this stuff, but this is just how you can try to communicate it to the student. So I'm just going to keep this on the clean channel. So with a Les Paul kind of guitar, because they'll always ask you when they ever get a new guitar, what are these knobs and switches for? They will ask you that. Pray that you get, it's like when we did the tuning episode last week, pray that you get a student who's got a one knob, one pickup guitar to start. Chances are you won't. But if you do, it'll be much easier. So what you got here is you've got neck pickup, volume, and tone, bridge pickup, volume, and tone. You've got a separate volume and tone for each pickup. So this is in the bridge position. Middle position activates both pickups. And the neck activates the neck pickup. Super, super, super easy. Up is the neck, middle is both, down is the bridge. And it actually tells you treble and rhythm on a guitar like this. So the treble is always the bridge pickup because it's the brightest and loudest one in most cases. And you should be able to tell by actually hearing. I've had kids tell me, I can't tell the difference. It's like, really, dude? Listen again. Listen more closely. You can tell a major difference if you just listen closely. Sometimes it's a little harder to tell with certain pickups, but that's just the way it operates. If they didn't sound differently, there wouldn't be more than one in there. So the other thing about this that you have to be really patient about is that I seriously think that this is a reason for kids having trouble with anything with knobs on it these days, because they're so used to a touch screen everything. Like seriously, a switch or a knob on something, they are confused by. So I have to go on my short but blunt fuck technology rant because it pisses me off, because it's like, dear God, kids are smart. They're not stupid. But this is something you have to show them how to do, because a knob has one of three functions. It turns something up, it turns it down, or it turns it, 4, on or off. Now in this case, your volume, bridge pickup volume is here, that's off. Doesn't say on or off on it, but if I turn all the way to the left, this way, counterclockwise, it turns it off. Clockwise, turns it up. You have to tell them that. Up is the other way. Seriously, you have to do this. The only other kind of knob I've ever seen is if you turn it all the way to the left and it clicks, it actually physically turns it off to where it doesn't function unless you turn it to the right, which it will click again, and then you either turn it up or down. That's how a knob functions. But again, you will be surprised at how you have to explain this to kids these days, because they're used to just, touch screen everything. The only button they have to use on anything is the one on their PlayStation or the ones on their actual game controller, or the one that turns the phone on and off, which they almost never use because the phone is on 24/7. So that is that as far as the knobs go. And then with a guitar like this, you've also sometimes got switches. This is a coil split switch. So I flip this. Your definite volume difference. So it splits the humbucker into a single coil when you flip that switch. And there's one for the neck pickup also. Not as noticeable, but you can hear the difference. So on this guitar, I've got a coil split switch or a coil tap switch. Same thing for each pickup. And it's just depending on what you do in the middle selection. You get a bunch of variants of tones because you can have it in multiple combinations in the middle there. This guitar is a Super Strat style. Sounds a little out of tune. Let's check that. A little more self-explanatory with this guitar because it's easier to see which position the pickup selector is in, because this is the bridge and this is the neck. So you got a 5-way switch, and that's literally just bridge is down, neck is up. One knob, one volume, master tone. So regardless of which selection you're on, this is the volume, this is the tone. Remember, tone means high end or bright. So in this case, you've got the bridge pickup, kick it back one. Now, this is a 5-way switch on 2 pickups, so I have trouble remembering exactly what it engages, but it's definitely different. I'm just going to play the different tones. Full bridge. It's like the 4 position on a Strat. Both pickups in the middle. This is the bottom coil of the neck pickup. Full neck pickup. Very simple. Now the only other thing about this guitar that's different that your student's guitar may have, it's got a coil tap built into it. So if you pull, so it's either built into one of the knobs, you just pull up on it. Sometimes, like on a Les Paul I've seen, you can just push down on it. It does the same thing. It just pops up. But one way or the other, it splits. Full humbucker, split. You can tell it's noticeably thinner sounding. And it only does that in the neck, the middle, split, full humbucker, and bridge positions. Split, humbucker. So it's just a more powerful sound when it's in full humbucker mode. Other than the cosmetic factor, it's the same thing as the other one, except it's got a middle single coil. So it's still a 5-way switch, master volume, master tone. And then we went over how to tune the Floyd in the last week's episode. So we're not going to, it won't be last week's episode, but the last aired one, we talked about how to help students tune their instruments. The only thing is different is it's got a middle single coil. So it's full bridge, coil here, middle single coil, this one, and full neck. Is the Floyd Rose style bridge. Now this is an Ibanez Low Pro Edge, which is my favorite bridge ever. My JPM, the Picasso guitar, and my green S540 Custom have the same bridge on them. This is the best trim ever made, if you ask me, because it's the best one I've ever used. But kids are obsessed with the Limey bar, and the main thing you want to have them remember about this is it only functions in 2 positions. It has to be parallel with the neck. You can't use it when it's over here or over here. If you do that, you will break something. You literally have to tell them this because they get excited and they start yanking on it. So, make sure this is something you specify really clearly. Functions there. It functions there. Notice it's parallel with the neck in either position. And this is pretty much all you have to let them know about that, aside from getting it set up properly and knowing how to operate it. So that is all for today. So let's recap. We've got the instrument, respect, and care. Polishing, making sure you just don't damage it. Don't lean it up against anything when it's not on a stand. If it's not in the case, or if it's not if it's not in your hand, if it's not on the stand securely, or it's not in a case, then it should be, lay it on your bed or somewhere where it's not going to fall and break. That's easy. And make sure you polish it, make it look nice. The gig bag Make sure that they don't have one zipper on the bottom, one on the top, and then when they take it out, it falls out and breaks or hits the ground really hard. Taking the guitar in and out of the bag. The cables, make sure they don't kink them. Wrap them up so they're coiled and nice. They last a long time. Amps, just basic functions, gain, volume, description of effects, how that works and what kind of tones they are, just so you can give them a basic idea. Again, have them check out a YouTube demo. It's the easiest thing you're going to be able to do. Chances are they won't, because you'll tell them, and how much they follow advice a lot of the time, but that's your job to tell them that anyway. If they do, good. If they don't, just keep telling them that it's this easy, dude. Punch it in, look it up. Pedals and accessories, same thing. There's pedal demos all over the place. You can find a demo of a pedal or a shootout of this pedal versus that pedal on YouTube. Much as I hate the internet for a lot of reasons, there's a lot of perks to it, and there's a lot of information. If you can't take advantage of it, or you haven't, you're missing out. And if you don't know how by now, even my 70-year-old father knows how to surf the internet. So if you can't figure that out, get it together. And then as far as the instrument controls and functions, let them know which parts of the guitar they are: headstock, bridge, pickups, selector switch, and what the knobs do. And again, remember, with kids, you have to explain what the knob does and which direction it goes, because they're used to touchscreen only. They still know what a button does because they have to use it for their PlayStation or their Xbox controller. But if you ask me, that's about the only way they have to do that anymore. So, on, off. Yes, you have to explain this. One of my kids, he's great. Literally, he'll ask me, "Is my amp on?" I'm like, "Do you see any lights on it?" Which means it's not on, because he has to turn the switch on in the back. That's how bad it is. He's about 13. He's a good kid. Nothing against him. I think it's just the era they're growing up in. But it's also ludicrous, because kids aren't stupid. All you have to do is strum the strings. Oh, volume increase. Oh, volume decrease. Very simple, but just be patient with them. Try not to don't lose your shit. I never have, but trust me, I want to. Because, again, kids aren't dumb. They really aren't. They're very intelligent. So having to explain that to them, it's like, come on. You're literally smarter than this child. Ugh. But, I wouldn't be saying this to the degree that I am if I didn't have to deal with it all the time, which I do. So, and again, you can tell them 17 billion times, and you'll be lucky if after 6 months they retain it. But, that's their thing, not mine. I'm just here to help. So thanks for tuning in and watching. Please hit the bell for new videos. Subscribe, like, share. Follow us on Instagram and Facebook. Check out our sponsors in the description below. And we will see you next week.